Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Card Talk podcast, where we spend just a little bit of time talking about force-pushing orcs. I'm your host, Dave Walsh.
I'm Ted Bannock, and I am the king of podcasts. I descend from a long line of podcasting kings, in case you didn't know, David.
You know that the title of the episode is right there for everybody to see, right?
Oh, but it's so fun for people to guess. They enjoy it, okay? I get fan mail about this, okay?
Well, anyways.
We have a fantastic episode.
We do, but before we get into the card, let's talk a little bit about how to stay connected with us. We do have a small but loyal fan base that feels like contributing a couple of bucks a month to us. So if you want to become a patron of the show, feel free to do so at any level. We love to have you, and you can do that by going to patreon.com/cardtalk2018. Matt over at the blog, he reviews the cards that we talk about here on the pod. So go visit cardtalk2018.com and see his take. He spends a lot of time writing up stuff, and he catches things that we don't necessarily talk about, and we catch things that he doesn't talk about. So, works in conjunction with each other. And then we have Second Breakfast, which is our live playthrough series every other Sunday. Micah over on our YouTube channel plays through a scenario or two or three sometimes, depending on how quickly he gets through or dies. And then we have an email address, cardtalk2018@gmail.com. But please do not use that to send Ted fan mail. Just send fan mail to me. Because Ted doesn't need any more encouragement than he already has to talk about today's card.
Send it all.
So what is today's
Only
card?
positive feedback, because my ego is fragile. Today's card is Descendants of Kings, as you may have guessed from my very clever introduction.
Yeah, it's very... It took me a while to figure it out.
It's a one-cost leadership event that is action. Ready X, Dunedain characters you control. X is the number of enemies engaged with you. And Descendants of Kings, we've been on this kind of Dunedain kick, and thematically it's where it fits in, right? The Dunedain are that descend from kings, right?
They are, some of them. Right, the heirs of Valandil. We just went over that last week. So, it's like, how many different ways can you name a card with the same name, right?
Yeah,
it's like heir of Valandil means you are a descendant of a king. Yeah, which is what this card's name is.
Yeah.
Anyways,
but yeah, so it's. David, I know you have limited interaction with Dunedain heroes, but have you ever put this card on the table or have any initial thoughts on it?
Well, I think that this card is less niche-y than the last one that we talked about. Like, you can see that it's Ready X Dunedain characters you control, which is, which includes heroes and allies. So if you're playing one Dunedain hero, and you can keep one enemy engaged that we've been talking about for week after week after week, with Force Snare or Outmatched or whichever, trap of choice you want to, like one cost for a Ready. It's not quite cram, but it's pretty good. And then if you have two, you just happen to have two, like you may have put out the Dunedain Hunter or the, like this card I think is a little more general use, fits into a few more decks than maybe the heir of Valandil that we just talked about. So I like it. The one thing I will point out also is that it's it's characters that you control. I wish that to make this a nice little multiplayer card, it would be nice to have something like this where it's, ready up to X Dunedain characters. And then, because you can spread the love around a little bit. I don't think that would break the game necessarily.
Oh, sure. Sure.
Like if you're playing multiplayer, if you're playing 4 players and somebody has Aragorn across from you, you could ready Aragorn instead of somebody you had. I think that would be a neat little thing. So
yeah, yep.
Anyways, that's about all I have. Have I put it in decks? Not that I remember. Because I don't play the Dunedain. I literally pass over these things. These cards don't strike me as cards that I want to play. But
it doesn't
Ted, you
ready
do play
Hobbit characters you control,
right?
But yeah, so you can see its value. It's readying, right? And that's always good. The events like this help get you out of a pinch, and that's exactly what this card does. It really, really help you. So I've said on the show before, if you don't have for this game, if you don't have a strategy of defense, you're kind of sunk, right? Because you don't lose the game from not questing. You don't lose the game from not attacking. You will more immediately lose the game from not defending because you have dead heroes. So yeah, it's part of the Dunedain archetype, and it readies Dunedain characters you control, which is nice that it flexes to allies. But I find this card can really, really help you defend and then appropriately attack back. Because let's say you only have one enemy engage with you, to get one ready for one resource. Like, would you pay that? Would you pay one resource to get a ready out of a hero?
Yeah.
Like, okay, that's not a bad value, right? Especially if you need that action to kill something, or do something really productive. A lot of times with this card, you're probably getting 2 readies. Because you're getting, let's say you got 2 enemies and you have 2 Dunedain characters, hero or ally, right? You can block with one character, block the second enemy with another character. Then you get to ready both of your characters.
Right.
Because you have 2 enemies, so you ready both those Dunedain. Now you can attack back and hopefully kill one of them, at least one of those enemies. One might carry over to the next turn, but hey, that's part of the strategy anyway. So yeah, it plays well in the Dunedain deck, but really any deck can make use of this if you have Dunedain characters. Heck, you can use this to ready Barivor.
Right. I was just about to say that. Barivor, who's like the unspoken Dunedain until you realize, like, oh, I need card draw in a Dunedain deck. And you're like, oh, Barivor, boom.
Yeah. You can, if you already used Barivor to draw cards at the beginning of the turn, you engage an enemy, you're like, I'm going to ready Barivor, now she can block for me. Because you had an enemy engage with you that you didn't plan for. Events like this help you. They're important in decks because they get you out of things that you didn't plan for. Extra enemies essentially that you need extra actions for.
I mean, even just putting together a great, like a great questing push, and so you play a very good tail, and you have to exhaust 2 allies to bring out 2 more allies, and then you can ready those allies. It's ready, and it's not specific readying. You can ready, as long as they're characters you control and they're Dunedain, you can ready those characters, right? And so you're not going to put this in a deck that's, got 2 Dunedain characters in it, but it definitely is, is definitely some broader use cases, Tale of Tenuvial, right? Exhaust an Noldor to ready a Dunedain, or vice versa, which is the vice versa one. Exhaust so there's places to that this can come into play. That's even not just in a Dunedain deck. If you're just playing a Dunedain hero, right? Because it's not even limited to a phase. Like you could put this in the combat phase, and you can use it to defend, and then defend again, or defend and then attack back. Or Rohirrim. I keep bringing up Rohirrim in all these shows, but Rohirrim is great because Rohirrim allows you to attack something that's without it attacking you first. So it's kind of like Haldir of the Dunedain. So you put Rohirrim on gauges, and then you can ready that hero and then use it to attack someplace else, as long as, and I believe, and Ted, this is a rules question that may be ticky-tacky, but if you engage and you attack something with Rohirrim, not with Rohirrim, but with whatever hero is attached,
right?
Rohirrim is attached to, you know what I mean? But, so now you're attacking it in the engagement phase. That's a whole different phase, and then when you get to the combat phase, you can attack again and maybe kill it if you haven't killed it with Rohirrim. So, this is, I think, a much more flexible card, even if you're just accidentally running two Dunedain heroes, right? There's nothing wrong with putting this card in your deck.
Yeah.
I actually really now that I'm reading this card and looking at it, I'm thinking of all the different places. There's some niche-y places, like the whole tail, very good tail thing, exhaust to Dunedain, and then you get them back. But how often? I guess if you're playing a Dunedain deck, that's great. But if you're playing a general use deck, it's not necessarily you're going to have Dunedains that you're going to exhaust to get a very good tail going. But anyways, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, there's some good. There's plenty of allies that have good targets for this, because some of them are expensive. A lot of the heroes have 3 attacks. You have the Vigilant Dunedain, who's got 3 attack also and 2 defense. You have some range and Sentinel Dunedain as well. So there's plenty of good targets for this too, to either use them for the same action twice or make use of different stat lines. And like I said, it's of course dependent upon when you have enemies engaged with you, but that's when you need the actions, right? That's when you most need them, is I need to defend to live.
Right.
Great. Done. And you have this is a leadership card, and in leadership alone, you have those kind of 3 staple Dunedain heroes, at least, to make sure because I'd say you're probably running at least 1 or very likely 2 Dunedains to make this card worth it. But you can run 1 hero and then a bunch of allies, like you mentioned before. But probably at least 1 hero, so you have a strong, reliable stat line as opposed to just writing allies, I'd say. But you have Halbrand, Amarthiel, and Leadership Aragorn right off the bat, that are in Sphere.
Right.
And all those, Amarthiel's got 3 attack and 3 defense, and Aragorn's got 3 attack and 2 Sentinel defense. So, there you go. It'll get
uses, right?
Yeah, it'll get you out of a bind.
And so when you're building a Dunedain deck and you don't have, access to, unexpected courage, you need some other source of readying. So you have Cram, and you have this card, and you can get 6 readies, and that's pretty good.
Yeah.
You can get 6 cards that have readying. Let me say that. You can get way more readies.
Yeah.
If you have more.
Yeah. So depending upon the other makeup of your deck and what other spheres you're mixing, a lot of Dunedain decks are paired with tactics and leadership. And leadership's they both have some writing effects, but not a ton. It's not as reliable as, say, unexpected courage. So depending on your makeup, depends on how many copies to run. But a lot of times I'm running 2, because 1 is not enough, but 3 might be too many. And 2 is good to kind of get one in your hand and have it when you need it.
Yeah. I mean, this is going to be a little interesting, but even quest specific things, there's a couple of quests in the Dwerdelf cycle where just those orcs just come down on you, and then there's that one, what is it, orc ambush from from the cycle where all those orcs come into play and then
The
they may
discard pile,
engage you.
it's a
Yeah,
really bad
yeah,
design.
and it's bad design, but here you have an option that if you can take the defenses of 4 or 5 enemies, but now everybody's exhausted, you can't attack back. Now you have 5 enemies engaged with you. You can play this for 1, and then you can ready all those Dunedains, and then you can at least kill some of them off. So it's tech for some of those crazy quests where they try to flood the board on you when you're not looking. I think it definitely can help you in those situations.
Yeah.
Those are the two. I know the Dwell Delph has like 2 or 3 scenarios that just. There's the one orc in the double surge orc in the Khazad-dûm cycle, and then there's orc ambush in the what is that, the Heirs of Numenor cycle. The Intruders in Chetwood is the one that it starts off. So
yeah, there's
Ringmaker,
even
maybe, I don't know. No,
there's
not
even
Ringmaker.
no, now that you mention it, yeah, there's a handful of quests too. Ones that come to mind are the Khazad-dûm cycle and the Ered Mithrin cycle. There are enemies that have a shadow text that say, put this enemy into play engaged with you. Right, like a goblin spearman.
Yeah.
So now all of a sudden, or
there's
sometimes
the Goblin Follower is the one that that you're thinking of from the Ered Mithrin cycle, right?
No, the Follower's in the Khazad-dûm pack, but there's a goblin. There's a tiny little goblin.
There's a goblin in the Ered Mithrin it's a 50. It says you cannot optionally engage.
Yeah.
It's called the goblin. And the shadow effect says put this card into put this enemy into play, engage with you.
Yeah. So there's other effects like that. And Dave and I are pretty close.
Yeah, we're talking the same general idea here.
Yeah. So there's a couple scenarios that have that. So anyway, like I said, it gets you out of a bind. And if you're running, so if you're running one Dunedain hero and then maybe, like I said, another hero or enough allies to make it worth it. And it's always a fixed resource cost of 1. So you hang on to that one resource in case you need to get the readying, and then you're set. You're good.
Right. Yeah, it's pretty good. So, well, Ted, do you think that this card, in terms of its artwork, represents a Descendants of King? And talk about the artwork a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, it to me looks like it is Aragorn. And the funny thing is we did a couple Dunedain cards recently. And the artist for this card is the same artist that drew Hero Halbered and Era Valendil.
Right.
However, of the 3 pieces, if I were to compare them, this one to me looks the best. Like, it looks nothing like the other 2 in the form of that it looks better. Right. And Aragorn looks a bit like a Jedi.
How so, Ted?
Well, he's got his hand outstretched behind him and he's thrusting his sword right at the card, which is cool because it looks like he's thrusting forward and then he has his hand, I don't know, like he's bracing his attack or something against nothing. Right. But there's also an orc behind him that's probably getting hit by an arrow or he just got attacked or something. So it looks like this orc that's on its way falling over dying. It looks like he's pushing it over and there's like blood coming from its mouth.
Right.
And even on the artwork too, in the upper left-hand corner, there's more blood in the air,
right? But or dirt or something. Yeah,
you can't see where it's from. You have to see the full artwork. Like, more orcs are just dying around this Dunedain company that's just like slaughtering them. Right. So it looks pretty cool.
And it's funny because his hand holding back is he's not just like this. He's actually has like the force, that force, like his, the curved, like, get out of here, like it's so funny.
Yeah.
So when you pointed that out,
straight up and down like a stop,
right?
His hand is his fingers are bent at the joints, so it looks like he is like force pushing or force joking from the Star Wars universe.
That's exactly what it is. And so, I wish I could take any sort of credit for that. But when Ted pointed it out to me, I was like, oh my God, that's it. That's what's going on.
Oh. So, but it's, I don't know how many more pieces of artwork this artist has, but of the 3 that we've immediately noticed because they've all been next to each other in terms of shows, this one is the best that I've seen, and I like it a lot more than the other ones.
Right. I like this. I just like this card better than most of the other cards that we've talked about.
Yeah.
Should we ring this guy?
Yeah, let's ring it up.
Descendant of Rings.
Descendant of Rings.
Okay. So for anybody who doesn't know or maybe new to the podcast, we have a highly scientific yet arbitrary system where we rank a card on a scale from 1 to 10, where 1 is the one card to rule them all, or a very good card in the game, and 10 is the card that we throw back into the fiery chasm from whence it came, or not a very good card in the game. So I will take this card first. Ted did it first last time, so I just feel like this card is more general use than most other, Dunedain deck cards. Like, even if you have accidentally one Dunedain hero, Barivore, and you have maybe Thalion. Thalion has some self-writing effects anyways, but, or, some other, you're playing, and you have multiple Northern Trackers, whatever. The point is that I think that, you can accidentally get some good use out of this without building around it. And so I think that this is a good card that could be potentially used more than other Dunedain deck cards. So because of that, I don't love the Dunedain deck, and I'm not going to, beat that dead horse that I've been beating, the past couple of shows. But, I think I have to give this card a 5 because I think that there's some use for it, but it's not great, but it's definitely not horrible, and I'm definitely not going to, pass it over much if there's an opportunity to use it. Ted?
Yeah, I'm gonna give it a 4 because the writing it gives is always good, and it's limited to its targets, yes, but there are good targets, especially. I mean, if you look at every single version of Aragorn, 3 of his versions are Sentinel, and you could ready his. If you use Spirit Aragorn, he has that action printed on him, so you're using his stats plus his ability. The tactics version is phenomenal, right? Because you kill an enemy, engage a new enemy. Now you play this card to ready him to then attack that enemy you just brought over to you. So it's got a wide range of uses and can really, like I said, bail you out. So if you're running, like I said, one of those heroes and some of those allies that are worth it, give it a go. Slap 2 copies in your deck, and I think you'll enjoy force pushing some orcs.
That's awesome. Force pushing orcs.
Yep.
Caleb, I know, loves the Star Wars universe as well, so maybe this was his way of sneaking in. Again, like I said, for Heir of Valadil, I want to see the art brief on this one just to make sure that it.
Yeah, this one I really want to see the full picture.
Yeah, you can find it.
Yeah, I'll have to check out the artist's page and see if I can dig it up. So,
well, everybody, I think we've talked a lot about the Dunedain archetype lately, and that's I guess that's good. We probably should have brought this at the head of the show with the new Angmar Awakens cycle and campaign out. It's good to talk about these cards right now and to address them and figure out if they're good or not. So anyways, if you have any ideas or you want to hear some cards from us that maybe we haven't done, leave a comment. We'll try to get to them. So anyways, everybody, thank you for joining us, and have a great day.
Do you love the content? Here's what you can do to stay connected. Become a patron. The money collected through Patreon goes into keeping the lights on here at the podcast. We love our patrons, and you can join at many different levels. visit patreon.com/cardtalk2018. You can subscribe to us, whether you're watching our YouTube channel or you're listening to us in your favorite podcatcher. Hit the subscribe button to get notifications of all our new episodes. Didn't know we were an audio podcast? Find us by searching Card Talk to get access to our 120 plus regular episodes. Didn't know we were a video channel? Find us by searching Card Talk LOTR LCG on YouTube. And there you can find not only our regular episodes, but you can find our bonus playthroughs and other content related to the game. Want to get a hold of Ted, Grant, or myself? Feel free to email the podcast at cardtalk2018@gmail.com.